Hey, I'm Jim Barry. This is Miami Life, the show that hits the hot button topics and puts you in touch with the people really making a difference here in South Florida. And a national issue with enormous local implications is the Trump administration's immigration crackdown. In Doral, in fact, the city council voted to allow its police to partner with ICE to enforce federal immigration efforts. The agreement allows Doral cops to question, detain, and process people suspected of violating immigration laws. Doral is home to one of the U.S.'s largest Venezuelan communities, as we all know. The White House is already seeking to rescind temporary protected status for Venezuelans in the U.S. Meanwhile, at least 18 foreign students at FIU have had their F1 visas revoked. The State Department has revoked dozens of student visas across 24 states, including at the University of Florida. And many of the international students impacted took part in protests like the ones against the war in Gaza. Student activists are being warned by organizers to not participate in campus protests, though, for the time being. And the crackdown has made undocumented immigrants uneasy, fearing they could be next. They could be deported. Betty Wynn talked with a South Florida grandmother who has lived here 35 years, and now she has gone into hiding and wonders what to do next.
I came here illegally, but I'm not a criminal.
This grandmother, who wants to remain anonymous, says she and her husband illegally crossed the Mexico-U.S. border 35 years ago.
That's my biggest fear, to get caught. I will have to leave my family. And that's the hard part for me. I won't be able to see my son to graduate. I won't be able to see my grandchildren grow up.
They are now in hiding, worried they'll get picked up by Highway Patrol on a routine trip to work. She's a house cleaner and he's a construction worker. Florida officers can now execute immigration enforcement. They can stop, interrogate, and detain anyone suspected of being in the U.S. illegally. Immigration attorney Angelica Jimenez says undocumented immigrants in the country for less than 2 years are especially at risk.
Those individuals are being put into expedited removal. This means that those individuals do not see a judge.
She says the only possible hope is expressing a credible fear of returning to your country.
What they have to give you is a credible fear interview. If you pass it, you're likely to see a judge. Okay? If you don't pass it, the most you can do is appeal.
For those like this grandmother who has been here for decades,
I work my butt off every single day. I don't have no criminal record, no food stamps, no nothing. I was paying everything from my pockets, no help.
You paid your taxes?
Yes, I paid my taxes for 3 decades.
All of this could help her case, but she says she's afraid to come forward and risk being deported to Mexico.
I don't have nobody in my country. Nobody left. My mom died, my dad died, my 2 sisters and my brother died.
If you're here longer than 2 years, what's the process?
Definitely keep with you maybe a folder where you can backtrack and start from the date that you arrived here in the United States, so you have proof that you have been physically here present in the United States over 2 years.
But the rules are rapidly changing, and now all undocumented immigrants over the age of 14 must register with the Department of Homeland Security or face civil and even criminal penalties.
Not only do you have to register, but you have to carry the proof of registration. And if they don't have it on hand, they could be prosecuted as well.
All of which keeps this grandmother in hiding, hoping to find a path to citizenship.
And one of the dreams is one day to stay here legally in this country with my family together, all of us.
For you, that's the American dream.
Yes, that's my American dream.
That was Betty Wynn reporting. Joining us now is immigration lawyer Lizette Sierra. Lizette, thank you for joining us again to talk about this such a crucial topic here all across South Florida. So do law-abiding grandmas like the lady we saw in this story, do they have to fear as much as so-called criminals about being deported?
Well, I think everybody has to fear the fact that they may be detained and deported at any time, but criminals are on the top of the list. Those are the individuals that are being actively sought out. However, although she's been here for 30 years, she could face detention, may have to ask for some type of bond to be released, show her nexus to the community, which she has plenty of it, but that's still a horrible situation to be in and to have to go through, especially after having lived here for 30 years.
And you heard the real fear. I think a lot of immigrants would fear that if I do go forward and try to follow the right steps, I could get whisked away. So is there a real risk there?
Well, there is, but I believe that if they do the alien registration and they have that on their person, the thought there is that individuals who are following those rules will be provided an opportunity to either depart voluntarily on their own if they have an order of removal, or they go to immigration court. They'll be facing removal proceedings, and she would have an opportunity. She's been here for 30 years. I don't know the ages of her children, but she has children, grandchildren. Maybe she's eligible for cancellation of removal. Maybe her son is going to be 21 years old soon. Maybe you can petition for her. There are waivers that can be filed. They're long, they're lengthy processes, but they are available, and we can keep people in the country while we are doing these applications.
You guys are busy right now, aren't you?
Very much so, yes,
yeah,
sir.
I can imagine. And obviously, for people to hire someone with your expertise costs some money. That in and of itself could be an obstacle for many people, right? Who may not have the means to hire somebody like you.
That is true, but there are many organizations, especially here in South Florida, that offer pro bono or low-cost services. We as attorneys, too, I do quite a bit of pro bono cases myself because, you know, I am a very active member of my community. I'm a child of immigrants, and you'll find many attorneys like that that are willing to help.
We heard her say that she's paid taxes for many, many years. Would that help her case?
That definitely helps. If she is eligible for cancellation removal, that's a relief where an individual's lived here for more than 10 years, are people of good moral character, she has not committed any crimes, never been arrested, and she may have a qualifying relative, a child or a spouse who's a resident or citizen who would suffer extreme hardship. So, paying your taxes, that's showing your good moral character, following the law up until where you can, because obviously being present and undocumented is not following the law, but she's doing everything else that she can.
Are undocumented immigrants required to pay taxes?
Well, if you don't have a Social Security, it's very difficult. But if you're able to do it, if you have a company, your company pays taxes, or if she had a Social Security at one point and she continued to use it, even though she doesn't have work authorization, and she's still paying taxes, that helps. The courts love to see that. They love to see community service. You know, extended family member, that nexus to the community is super important.
What about the backlog of cases? Even if someone does come forward now, how soon might they be able to get through the process to actually become a citizen and go through the legal pathway to citizenship?
That's super hard to speculate because we are so saturated in the immigration system. I had court about a week ago, and my next hearing is for 2028. So these folks may be sitting in court for a long time, but the good thing about that is that if they filed their form of relief, whether it be an asylum, cancellation of removal, they should be permitted to remain here while they're waiting for that case to be adjudicated, whether it's a year, whether it's 2 years, 3 years.
Gotcha. Let's go back to the situation about the criminals, and obviously you said that's a big focus. But many of the so-called criminals being rounded up, their family members, of course, say, well, he's not a criminal. Well, of course, there's the highly publicized case of the gentleman from El Salvador who was sent back there, and now that has even landed in the laps of the Supreme Court. Right. It almost seems like it's a case of guilty till proven innocent. Are those people getting due process, and how do they guarantee that they get due process?
Well, every case is different. That case is a little interesting because I do not know all the facts, but my understanding is that he was granted what's called withholding of removal.
Right.
Withholding of removal is not a permanent resident status. It's not something that allows you to live here forever. It's a deferral. It's stopping your deportation order. So he, in effect, had a deportation order that could be made effective at any time. The problem was that he had protection against his home country, and he was sent back to his home country. So individuals with withholding of removal don't necessarily have, you know, a green card to stay, and you know, it's difficult. But that's a case-by-case situation. I do believe that many are going to have their due process, but if you have an order of removal already, you're always going to be in danger of being deported physically.
And Lizette, we've got about a few seconds left. Students who are afraid of not speaking up, foreign students who are afraid of being deported, what about their situations? And
you know, that is also a difficult situation. Student visas are not a given either, just like a tourist visa. You know, you have, when you apply for those visas, to show that you have an intent to be here temporarily, you're going to do good, you're not going to be committing crimes. And so if they are found to be doing something that's contrary to our foreign policy or, you know, our public safety, they can be revoked at any time. It's a very difficult situation, and it is unfair because you don't have necessarily due process there. You can't appeal that revocation. You got to go home, reapply, and that'll be almost, you know,
sure. And
impossible.
Some people would question whether or not that's just violating their free speech rights. Even though they're visitors, they still have the right to free speech.
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
Couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
So I say, everybody, please go seek legal advice, find an immigration attorney, something that the prior attorney said that's super important. Always have copies of your documents on you.
Even if you're going to the grocery store?
Yes. If you've been here for over 2 years, please carry that on you, because if you don't have proof of the 2-year residence here, you could be placed in that expedited removal and you don't see a judge.
Yeah. Lizette, thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure.
Appreciate your expertise. Thank you so much. Well, up next, soccer icon David Beckham on why he loves Miami life.
And I remember when I first started having the conversations about bringing the team here, and people were like, no, don't go to Miami, it's a tough sporting city. And I was like, no, I've got a feeling about Miami.
Lisa Petrillo goes one-on-one with the superstar about his plans to make Miami soccer central. And everybody thinks he's so handsome with all those tattoos, but he is dashing, I have to say that's true. And in this week's Side Hustle, meet this guy, a tire salesman who has put a unique spin on his own brand of art. Well, from soccer legend to entrepreneur, David Beckham's bond with Miami continues to grow. He is not just a visitor here anymore. He's actually spending a lot of time here. Our Lisa Petrillo has an up-close and personal interview with the man himself.
He's a global icon, a football legend, and now Miami's own David Beckham's heart is firmly rooted in South Florida.
What is it about Miami in your heart that brought us here so many years ago to really want to do soccer and everything here?
You know, it's always been a special place, Miami, to me. And I remember when I first started having the conversations about bringing the team here, and people were like, no, don't go to Miami, it's a tough sporting city. And I was like, no, I've got a feeling about Miami. And then when I came here and spent time here, I fell in love, and my whole family fell in love with Miami.
Since first announcing he'd be bringing Major League Soccer here back in 2014, Beckham told me he takes pride in the promises he's made and kept, including getting the game's biggest stars and a world-class facility. But his passion extends beyond the profession. He's helping lay the foundation for American soccer's future through his Miami-based youth academy.
We're giving the kids in Miami and South Florida the opportunity to come and play the game and come and learn about the game with great coaches. And then all of a sudden, you know, you sign a player like Leo Messi. And these young players are training in the evening, and Leo will walk onto the pitch and go and watch. And imagine that.
The eternally youthful Beckham is also gearing up for a major milestone, recently celebrating his upcoming 50th birthday right here in Miami. The early celebration at Cipriani's in Brickell brought in family and famous friends.
Miami is my second home, so obviously we're here as a family, so I thought this is the opportunity to actually celebrate with my family, a few of the players and friends. So we're all in one place, you know, a few weeks ahead of my actual birthday.
Do you have any favorite haunts, little dinner spots or breakfast places, or what do you like best about
Enriqueta's.
Enriqueta's, of course, a classic.
My favorite. You know, that was the first place Jorge and Jose Mas took me after the announcement. And we went there to celebrate with a Cuban sandwich and a little Cuban coffee, and I've been going there ever since.
While juggling his many ventures, Beckham still prioritizes wellness, recently launching his daily vitamin supplement brand, IM8, which he co-founded with the support from leading experts at the Mayo Clinic, NASA, and more.
I always wanted to get involved in the health space, you know, obviously since I retired, you know, and I've taken supplements my whole career, you know, and I wanted it simplified. I feel sharper, I feel more focused, my energy is different, I'm sleeping better, thankfully, and it's an all-round incredible supplement product.
As far as the people here in South Florida, I mean, I think people have really kind of surrounded you with love here. Are you feeling it from the Miami love?
Oh my goodness, you know, from day one, well, not just to me, but to my whole family, and that means something. You know, when you come to a new city and you bring your whole family, you know, when you get welcomed the way we've been welcomed, I have to say thank you, because it's been incredible.
And joining me now for a deeper dive into the one and only David Beckham is the one and only Lisa Petrillo.
Hey.
You know what? Every time I see this guy, I feel like the Sade song "Smooth Operator" should be playing in the background. This guy seems like he is so smooth. Am I right?
I would absolutely say that. And also, there's a kindness, and he's just so friendly and warm. I mean, I said I swooned. No, of course I wasn't swooning. But he was very cool. And what was exciting is that he was talking about this summer, in the heat of the summer, he's going to be here in South Florida a lot because his youngest one is in school here and has programs here in summer, but something tells me they're going to be jetting off somewhere to where it's cool. But yes, sweating it out in South Florida like the best of us and the rest of us.
Yeah, and you know what? I think I can really tell that he's proud of the fact that when it comes to Inter Miami, he delivered on the promise to bring the big stars here. He gets it, what Miami's all about. This is a big event, big star kind of town.
And I think that was so cool. I think that really meant something to him, that he was able to prove to fans that, you know, he was not all talk. He was going to make it happen. Messi's here, the big guys are here, and he really told me that he sees one day that we're going to be, you know, in the big leagues here.
Yeah, and we are, largely because of his efforts to make soccer really matter here. I wonder about his family situation, because his wife is a huge brand in and of herself. And so I wonder how they managed to do that. He's huge, she's huge, they got 4 kids. How do they make it work?
So the other ones are grown, and so it's really like the youngest one, I think she's around 13, that's here. And then as far as the businesses, they stay together. I think wherever one is, they're not long apart. That was the impression I got. And he brought her up 4 or 5 times, Victoria, and I talked about the Netflix special where we saw what he went through back in those years where it was so brutal for him, and he said it was his family, his parents, and Victoria that got him through everything.
You know, I look at him and I see all these tattoos. He's tatted up and down,
tatted.
But he makes it work.
He's, to me, one of the only ones that really makes it work. He still looked great, because I like tattoos, but it was everywhere.
Yeah.
But he was still extremely handsome. Just gonna say that.
Okay, you don't have to swoon so much, Lisa. Goodness gracious. Yeah, he is a very dashing guy for sure. And I think it's interesting that he believed in Miami, maybe even more than other people did when it came to soccer.
Yeah, and I think because people think that Miami is, you know, kind of a short time a winner's fan base, and he said there was something magical about this city when he got here and how he was embraced by this city, and he just really felt that he could make it happen here.
And he has.
Yeah.
David Beckham, the humble super duper star.
Exactly,
All
superstar
right.
for sure.
Lisa, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Enjoyed it. And still to come on Miami Life, an artist with a unique creative process.
That you know, one mistake leads to another in art, you know, and it's like it's a positive mistake. It's never a negative mistake. One thing is for sure, it's always a happy place for me.
He's got quite a touch, and guess what? Art is not even his full-time job. Meet the latest star of our Side Hustle series next. Welcome back to Miami Life, and it's time for our latest installment of Side Hustle. This week we introduce you to a Miami tire salesman who, during the pandemic, decided he needed a hobby. Now he's selling his art to people all over the world.
The process is basically a puzzle that I create on my own.
Miami artist Ernie Rodriguez specializes in mixed media collages that feature birds and other animals. This piece features a buffalo that tells the story of America.
Starting with a Native American and going into the Statue of Liberty. So yeah, in my work always I try to incorporate a story within them, a narrative that like I want to convey, but I also want the viewer to engage in my work and create their own narrative within it as well.
Rodriguez's process is somewhat unique. He begins with a sketch. Then he digs through his collection of vintage magazines and cuts out ads and images in the right shapes to complete the artwork. And that can take a while.
I don't know what I'm going to use until I find it. Once I find it, I know. Let's brush on the glue here, almost like if I'm painting.
Like many of us, Rodriguez was looking for a hobby to pass time during the pandemic. So he ordered a book on Amazon for beginning artists.
I've always had a passion for art, so I wanted to get a better understanding of how to draw with good perspective and good dimensions and whatnot. So that
Rodriguez says he learns something every time he sits in front of the easel.
I feel that one mistake leads to another in art, and it's like it's a positive mistake. It's never a negative mistake because you learn from it, and that helped me propel myself to doing what I do, which I feel is somewhat unique.
Rodriguez's art has 2 main themes that are part of Miami life: the wildfire and cars.
Everything here has to do with an automotive component. If you see the legs of the insect, you'll notice that they're tire treads.
Which makes sense considering Rodriguez's day job. He's the VP of sales for Tire Group International, the largest Latino-owned tire company in the United States.
Finding a home for them, and that's definitely where we're heading. So here we house about $20 million in tires, and
he's been in the tire business for more than 30 years.
I think I'm blessed to be able to say that I wake up in the morning, I've never complained that I have to go to work. I come to work happily. I think that.
Rodriguez's boss not only approves of his side hustle, he owns some of his art.
Yeah, sure do.
In your collection?
Absolutely. It's at home as I enter my library area. So yeah, very proud of Ernie and the work that he does. It's amazing.
Rodriguez's artwork has been displayed all across South Florida, from Biscayne National Park to Zoo Miami. And he sold pieces to collectors from as far away as Switzerland, thanks to the wide reach of social media. He is happy for that, but more so for the peace and joy he finds when he is lost in the process at his home studio.
Well, one thing is for sure, it's always a happy place for me.
And that is so important for all of us. We'll be right back. Well, if you are a fan of the legendary cinnamon rolls at Knaus Berry Farm, you've only got a few more days to get some. The landmark in the Redland is closing for the season on Saturday and won't reopen until October. So if you want some of their legendary rolls or one of their milkshakes, better head there right away. And a pro tip, you can freeze the cinnamon rolls to eat at a later date. But don't say we didn't warn you. And you know, we love getting feedback from the Miami Life audience. Here's a sampling of what you've said about some of the recent stories that we've done. In our discussion about the child labor bill being discussed in Tallahassee, one viewer wrote that kids aged 14 to 17 should not work more than 20 hours during the week and 30 hours during the summer months. Someone else feared that if the law passes, kids will be exploited, saying because China has toddlers working like adults, Florida will do the same. Plus, rich kids won't work a day in their lives. Keep sending us your comments and feedback to cbsmiami@cbs.com. That's going to do it for this week's edition of Miami Life. We'll see you every Thursday for Miami Life at 6:30 on the stream. You can also watch all of our episodes on demand on our YouTube channel. I'm Jim Berry. Thanks for joining us this week. Hope to see you soon.